Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's been a little bit and I have to apologize for that. Been dealing with a lot of family stuff. I do also want to note that it's hot, okay? I have a window unit for an air conditioner and it's a bit loud. If you hear that in the background, that's what that is, because with these lights, I absolutely refuse to shut off my air conditioner. There's no way that's happening. So we are just gonna jump right into this case today. This one I have always been perplexed over as to why it came to the resolution or the conclusion in the manner that it did. And today we're going to be talking about Lauren Agee. Now, Lauren was a beautiful, beautiful girl born on August 19th, 1993 in Mississippi. She lived in Henderson, Tennessee with her mom, Sherry, and her stepdad and 3 siblings. Her friends would describe her as super funny, very bubbly, very lively, and very quick-witted. Her mother described her as full of sugar and a little bit of spice. And all in all, she was an absolutely beautiful, hilarious, outgoing girl. Throughout her teenage years, she was doing gymnastics. She did a lot of dance as well. And in fact, she actually got a scholarship to go to college for dance. And she ended up changing her mind because she actually wanted to go to Ball State and pursue criminal justice. In fact, she actually really wanted to go in and be part of a CSI or law enforcement in general. That was her passion. At the time, Lauren had a boyfriend. She had a very active social life. Definitely one I could say that I would not be able to keep up with. That's just me, though. I'm just that way. She was such a beautiful soul. So in July 2015, Lauren was 21 years old. Her and her mom were extremely close, and she had gone to her mom and talked to her about, in a week or two, going to an event that she had been invited to called Wakefest. Now, Wakefest is like a water sports festival where they're doing wakeboarding, they're doing a lot of drinking, and just water sports in general, and a lot of alcohol. So it's July 24th, 2015, and Hannah and Lauren are headed out and trekking out on their big trip. It's super exciting. They're documenting along the way, posting on social media how excited they are about going, how much fun they're going to be having, and of course, I mean, in the middle of the summer, who isn't excited about that, especially if you're going with one of your friends. When they get there, they actually meet up with 2 other people, Aaron Lilly, which is Hannah's new boyfriend, and his friend Chris Stout. Now, this is the first time that Lauren is actually meeting Chris Stout. She's never known him before. And of course, Lauren has a boyfriend already, so she's really just going along with it because it's just friends and she's just kind of being a wingman. So Lauren and Hannah get there and it's their first day at Wakefest. They're ecstatic. It's the 4 of them just hanging out and they're all drinking together, cliff diving together. They were just having a downright good time. One thing to note though is that there wasn't really much of a controlled regulation in this area. It was kind of a free-for-all in a sense, just kind of at your own risk. You can jump off of a cliff and there's rocks that, obviously people will try and jump out far enough to avoid the rocks that they see below. There's still rocks that can't be seen that you run a risk of hitting. Unfortunately, this is just a side note. Lauren did in fact jump off of the cliff and do cliff diving because it was her turn, so she jumped up there and just took off, and she did actually end up hitting her head on a rock. Now, she was fine. She was kind of dazed for a little bit, but she was good to go. But people continued to cliff dive and jump off of this, and that just goes to show you how little regulation there was in this area. Now, all 4 of them just partied all the way throughout the night. They're going from bar to bar to bar, hanging out with people, having a good time. And it's stated that at around 2 a.m. they all decided it's time to get to bed. And this is when Lauren finds out from Hannah that they are in fact not going to be staying in a cabin on the lake. In fact, they're going to be staying on, to me, what looks like a cliff island in the middle of everything that's kind of set off away from everything. There's very extreme steep sides to this that they would actually have to climb up to get to the top. They were going to be camping there like any normal, sane person. Lauren was like, not digging that. It wasn't just that they were going to be camping up there. The sleeping arrangements were that Hannah and Aaron were going to be staying in a tent together. Lauren and Chris were going to be staying in a hammock together. And these hammocks are literally, I'll post a picture of them, literally hanging from one tree to the next over a 90-foot drop. And they're putting 2 people in that hammock. That is terrifying. So, of course, Lauren absolutely wants nothing to do with staying on this cliff. That's not what they agreed to. So she ended up actually going back out and going bar to bar to bar, talking to people, trying to find somebody that she may know to say, hey, do you guys have any extra room? Can I stay with you? And in doing that, she actually ran into an old friend named Cassie. And Cassie and some of her friends are staying in a cabin that they actually had rented. Lauren had asked her, is there any possible way, do you guys have any room that I could stay with you? And unfortunately, Cassie said, no, we are full. So Lauren ended up having to stay at the campground, the campsite that they were setting up. And another thing that kind of offset her, I'm sure, is she was obviously in a relationship with somebody back home, and she was not interested in Chris whatsoever. It was definitely noted that it was seen across the board in multiple bars of her reactions and her interactions with Chris that they were just friends. She was kind of just tolerating him because she was there for Hannah, and that was really it. So everybody goes to bed at camp, and that was the end of the first night. So the next morning, everybody wakes up and Lauren is gone. And something I found strange is that the 3 of them, Hannah, Chris, and Aaron, didn't really go looking for her. They just kind of assumed that she had gone down to Wakefest on her own and didn't want to wake anybody up and just went off on her own, which is strange, but maybe it's a possibility. So they went down to Wakefest, started partying, doing their thing, having a good time for the day. But as they're going bar to bar to bar and partying, they're not even really saying anything to anybody about her missing. They did note that they didn't see her anywhere, but they weren't making a point to look for her or even ask about her. Now, there was a couple that was actually out, I believe that they were fishing, and they seen something in this cove. So they saw something pink in the water in this cove. They drive their boat over to it, and they realized that it was actually a body. The couple immediately knew that there was something sketchy with this, and they didn't want to touch the body. They didn't want to have anything to do with it, because they wanted to make sure that the authorities knew before anybody touched this body. And so the couple actually went and found 2 other police officers, told them about it, put them on their boat, and was bringing them out to show them where the body was at. So on their way to this cove, they actually run into a guy that's on a canoe, and he is heading in the same direction as their boat. And so, of course, they're trying to stop him, don't go any further, stay back. He's at a distance that he can't even, there's no way that he can make out what is up ahead, that it's actually a body. There's no way from there that he could have been able to tell what it was. And so they're saying, stay back, stay back. He says, yeah, but that might be my friend up there. It was Aaron. Aaron was on this canoe heading into the cove, because he thought it could have been their friend. But at this point, nobody knew, except for those 4 people, that there was a body floating in that cove. Just a little sketch. So, of course, Aaron complied and he stayed back. Now, when the 4 people came upon Lauren, she was face down in the water. She had bruises, cuts, scrapes all across her back, her front, and in fact, she actually had something that looked like a bite mark on her chest. The angle in which that it was on her chest didn't really, it looked like someone had come across in front of her and bit her. So it was really a strange placement, honestly. Looking at this, the officers that the couple had found to notify somebody recommended to the police that actually recovered the body that they actually run a rape kit because of that bite. And wouldn't you believe it, they did not run a rape kit. They ran no DNA, no swabs, nothing. They didn't do a rape kit because they found that she had a tampon in, which is strange for a number of reasons. She wasn't on her period at the time. I mean, did she put it in just in case she started? And she was on the water. I don't know. I mean, I know I personally wouldn't do that, but that's because I'm a poor planner. I would be the person being humiliated in front of everybody. That's aside the point. In this case, I really don't believe that if she wasn't on her period that she would have put a tampon in. But because there was one in, they did not run a rape kit. When Lauren was found, she was wearing somebody else's clothes. They were not her clothes. Her mother was unable to identify them. She said they're clothes that she had never seen before and had no idea where they came from. The bra that Lauren had on at the time, as we women may understand that sometimes, whenever your bra is twisted or at a funky angle, you have to fix it because it's absolutely annoying and can sometimes be painful. Lauren's bra, if it even was hers, which her mother said it wasn't, was tangled. It was twisted all up. It did not look like she even dressed herself because of the manner in which her clothes were on. It looked like she had been dressed in a fast, manner and just kind of slapped together and done because her bra was tangled. And not only that, her bra on the back had 3 clasps like standard bras do. The only one that was clasped was the top one. Now they did run a blood alcohol test on her and she did have twice the legal limit in her system, but she had been drinking. That's what the whole weekend was for. She's 21 at the time, gonna be 22 that year. She's gonna drink. There was also a question and suspicion on her using drugs. Maybe this was a contributing factor. And there was definitely illegal drugs, being passed around and everybody's using them. But on her blood tests, she was negative for any kind of drugs. She had nothing in her system but alcohol. Now, during her autopsy, she was found to have a crushed throat. She had a broken nose and she had broken fingers as well, which sometimes might not be, much of a red flag if you consider this to be an accident of her falling off the side of this cliff, which that's what they were trying to lead it to. You would have to note that there were 2 giant bruises on her thighs that almost matched up to what you would consider maybe somebody kneeling on her with their knees to keep her pinned down during a sexual attack. But of course they ended up ruling that it was an accidental drowning. This next piece of information is the one that just gets me to where I'm like, there's so many questions around this. How can you speak with certainty as to what happened to her? How can you speak with certainty to say that it was an accidental drowning or that she fell? Because she was found with a mark on her stomach that matched the front end of a canoe. Now, when somebody passes away, your blood will settle, with gravity, whichever way that you are facing. It's going to settle and it's going to leave a weird impression. It's going to be a red area. So whatever you're laying on, around, in, will have an impact on your body. And this left an impression of the front end of a canoe on her stomach, which would imply that her body, the front end of her body, her head and her arms were inside of the front of a canoe with her legs hanging off into the water off the front, which would venture to say that she was moved after passing away. How this can be possibly overlooked or explained away is beyond me. There is no explanation. There's no explanation for that. With them ruling in an accidental death due to drowning, I don't see how they can put those two together. The canoe marking showing that she was probably moved on a canoe post-mortem, and then that she just accidentally drowned. No way. In an attempt to try and figure out what happened to Lauren when she was out there that night, over 50 dummies that matched her height, her weight, were thrown off the side of the cliff or accidentally fallen. Tons of different ways, locations, over 50 dummies. Not one of them made it into the water. They all fell, of course. They did not make it into the water. Now, here's some interesting facts. When Hannah was questioned, because of course there's only 3 other people that she was camping with that could potentially have answers to help lead them to what happened to Lauren. When questioned, Hannah first said, "Oh, well, I think I remember Lauren. I saw her. She was on a boat with a really old guy. Maybe you should look into that." And then it turned into that she was going to go see an ex-boyfriend. That must have been where she went. The next story was, she said that she was probably going to the bathroom and she fell. Because what they did, since there were such steep cliffs on the side, that they would actually hold on to like a tree or a branch and they would kind of hang the rest of their body off to go to the bathroom. And they actually, in fact, reenacted this theory with a dummy that, again, matched the height, the weight of Lauren. And there was no way that that was an option because, again, even hanging off and going potty, off the side of a cliff, had she have fallen, she would not have made it into the water based on this experiment. So after initial questioning, Hannah, Chris, and Aaron all went back to partying and spent the next 2 days finishing out their Wake Fest in a drunken fashion and having a good old time, just after their friend that they went with died. Now, investigators wanted to, of course, question Aaron and Chris as well and get their input as to what had happened. Now, to get their interview, they were transported by police in a boat to the police station to get their statement on what had happened. On the way to the police station, Chris and Aaron are in the back, and the police officer that is driving the boat can hear them. They were saying some super suspicious sketch stuff to the point that Aaron told Chris, "Shut up. I will tell them everything, and you don't need to say anything, and you don't need to talk." And then Chris was heard saying that he wanted to get off the boat, and that in order to do that, he was going to have to steal the police officer's gun just so he can get off and get away. Seems a little weird. Months after Lauren had passed, her parents had hired a private investigator to look further into their daughter's death because they do not believe that this was an accidental death by drowning. They do not believe that this was an innocent act. They believe that something happened to their daughter, that somebody had something to do with it, and that somebody knows way more than what they're saying. Have to say that I agree. So the private investigator, the 3 people that were involved with Lauren at Wakefest. And so to get to know these 3 people better, the private investigator went and started questioning people that might have known all 4 of them to see if anybody else had any clues or ideas as to what was going on or what had happened. Now, this private investigator was able to get 3 new statements from witnesses that were involved in some way or another with the evening. The first one is Cassie. If you remember correctly, when Lauren found out that they were not going to be staying in the cabin, she'd went around trying to find people that she knew, and she knew Cassie, and had asked Cassie if she could stay in the cabin with them, and they didn't have room, unfortunately. And Cassie had some interesting things to say. Cassie just so happened to be Aaron Lily's ex-girlfriend. Now, she stated that her time and her relationship with Aaron, he was extremely violent, abusive. He was just all around a very negative person to be around because you never knew what was going to happen. She even went as far to show police pictures of her injuries from the abuse that she had received from Aaron, which in the end, of course, turned out being the reason as to why they broke up. And these pictures of her injuries included bruises and bite marks. The next statement that he got was from Lauren's friend Jade. Now, Jade wasn't at Wakefest that night, but Jade was on the phone and texting back and forth with Lauren, and she stated that she had received multiple text messages from Lauren stating that she wasn't having fun. She just wanted to go home, and she actually went as far as to ask her if she could just come and pick her up. She just wanted to go home. But unfortunately, Jade said no. It was late. She didn't even really know where this place was. She didn't want to get lost. She's like, sorry, maybe tomorrow, if you still need me, I'll come and get you, but not tonight. Weirdly enough, in Hannah's first interview, she had stated that Lauren was trying to drive home, that she was drunk, she was wasted, and stating that she just wanted to go home. She was just going to drive herself home. So they took away her keys for her safety, which, trust me, I am all for, if your friend is drinking too much, get their keys away from them. But if you pair this information up with the fact that also it was said that Lauren was going around telling everybody that the people that she was hanging out with, which was Aaron, Chris, and Hannah, they were all being super mean to her. So she just wanted to go home. It wasn't a good time. They were being assholes. She just wanted to go home. Were they taking her keys to be mean? Or there's so many unknowns at this point. But the third statement that the private investigator was able to get was from a random guy named Chris Brown. Chris Brown was actually at the lake with his wife and his children. He was not a part of the Wake Fest. He was just in a house that was on the lake, so he wasn't really involved with the crazy festivities. He just happened to be a little close to where he was able to, see from a distance. And he saw something super strange that night. Now, this gentleman stated that it was midnight. He was out on his dock just kind of watching everything, and he saw this guy swimming in the water towards him and towards the deck. This man climbs up out of the water onto the deck. He is exhausted. He's extremely distraught. He's coughing up water. He's spitting up water for a few minutes, in fact. This guy looks at him and says, I almost just drowned coming from my camping spot to this dock. This man identified him as Aaron Lilly. The way that he described him matched Aaron Lilly, but it was also his swim trunks that kind of identified him. Now, some people have the same swimming trunks, but it just so happened to be the same day, the same style of shorts that he was wearing were the same as what this guy was wearing. Now, here's some real messed up stuff, I think, that came out of this story. Once they got home from the festival, Chris actually posted on his Instagram, and hopefully I'll find a picture of it and I'll put it up, with a picture and a caption that said, "Best weekend ever." Wouldn't you know it, not one of those people, not any one of the 3 people that had gone with Lauren to the Wake Fest went to her funeral. Not even Hannah. Hannah did not go to her funeral. Her friend, her fair weather, crappy friend, didn't show up at her funeral. Another side note, and a little bit of a fact to, maybe add context to the type of people that Hannah and Aaron are. Just a couple months after Lauren died, Aaron and Hannah actually moved to Florida. They moved in together. They were really pushing their relationship. Weirdly enough, at the same time, a bunch of mean comments, misinformation, and really mean comments about Lauren, her death, the circumstances around her death, began to come out online. Like a bunch of really negative things about Lauren and about her death were coming out online. And so the PI that Lauren's parents had hired looked into this, and he found the IP address. He wanted to track it down, see where it was coming from. Where were all these negative comments coming from? Just so happened to be the same street that Aaron and Hannah just moved to. So that is the case of Lauren Agee. There's a lot of theories that go around this case, obviously. The biggest one that, of course, the police went with was that she had been drinking, had consumed too much alcohol. Maybe she went to go to the bathroom or was trying to leave and just fell off the side of this cliff and ended up floating in the cove and drowning, which I don't believe. I'm sorry, this is one of those cases that's my opinion, and I'm going to push it. I believe that, Chris and Aaron had something to do with this. More so Aaron, probably, with his violent background and the fact that he was heading towards her body before anybody knew there was a body there. There's too many things. And he had a canoe, and she had a canoe mark on her stomach. I mean, there's too many unknowns, too many variables, too many unanswered questions, and uncooperative people. And the fact that their stories did not match. Their stories were never the same. It always changed. So I will end today's video with saying this. If you have any information, please contact the family. If you have any information that could help this family, reach out to Sherry Smith. That is Lauren Agee's mother. You can also contact the podcast, the Without Warning podcast. I will post a link below to their podcast page, I believe. And if you want to read up more information on this case, maybe there's stuff that I left out. I just kind of compiled as much as what I could together. But if you want to read a little bit more and get a little bit more invested and familiar with this case, I would definitely suggest it. I just couldn't imagine what her mother is going through right now. And she was fighting for quite a while with the system. The 4.5 years after Lauren's death, they were still fighting for wrongful death, for a wrongful death suit, and they ended up dropping it this year. So if you guys have any information, please reach out. This was by far a huge tragedy that was seen in their family, and I hurt for them. So if you enjoyed hearing this case today, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, contact me. I'll try and post links to like my Facebook and my Instagram and Twitter. I'm not real active on them. I'm just going to be honest. I'm a super busy mom that really just enjoys true crime, but I hate seeing injustices like this wrongful deaths cases, as you saw with the Christian Andriaco case. That stuff just boils my blood. So it's stuff that I just want to talk about. I want to bring out. I want to talk about it. So, and if that's something you want to do as well, great. But just keep in mind, like I said, I'm not real active like on Twitter and Instagram. It's just not my jam. I hope you enjoyed today's case, and I look forward to talking to you guys again. Have a good day.